of housekeeping, please turn off your mobile phones, put them on silent. And also for our speakers, there are 2 podiums on the platform. You will have the option of selecting the podium that is closest to where it is that you're seated. With that being said, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Addis Ababa and to this high-level roundtable on addressing malnutrition and catalyzing transformation through enhanced multi-sectoral investments here on the margins of the African Union Summit. My name is Victor Oladokun, and as always, it's a pleasure, it's an honor really, to be the MC and the moderator of our event this evening. We do have live streaming going on the African Development Bank Group's Vimeo and YouTube channels, in case you're trying to tune in internationally or from anywhere around the globe. We do have live stream going on as we speak. It's late in the evening, there's much to cover, and it is a packed house, so welcome everybody. My name is Victor Oladokun once again, and it is my pleasure indeed to be your MC. Now, for those who may not speak English or French, we are providing interpretation services in Arabic, in English, as well as Portuguese and French. So if you do not have a translation headset, please raise your hands, and I'm sure one will be made available to you. Before we begin, we indeed are grateful and indebted to our lead partners, the Kingdom of Lesotho, our event host, the African Union Commission, and the African Development Bank Group, and to several partners, including the African Leaders for Nutrition, ALN, Big Win Philanthropy, FAO, Nutrition International, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Well, here with us today, we have heads of state and global thought leaders. And one of the things they all have in common is their passion for combating stunting and malnutrition. And in addition, one thing they all have in common is their intuitive understanding of the interconnectedness between these issues and transformational development. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a very, very tight program today. Time is against us. So without further ado, I'm going to call on our first speaker this evening. Every single day, he literally lives and he breathes Africa. And for decades, he's been a champion at the forefront of Africa's food and agribusiness. In spite of the many challenges that face us as a continent, which we're all aware of, he consistently sees solutions. And it's for this reason that he is called Africa's optimist-in-chief. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please give a very warm welcome to the president of the African Development Bank Group, His Excellency, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina.
Hello? Oh, that's much better. Your Excellencies, let me start by welcoming Her Excellency, my dear big sister. You know, whatever you do in life, you have to have big sisters that take care of you, especially when you have cold. Even big sisters can fix it. Her Excellency, President Sahle-Work Zewde, the President of the Republic of Ethiopia. Your Excellency, Prime Minister, Right Honorable Prime Minister Samuel Matekare, my dear brother. my dear sister, Jamie Cooper, the chair and the founder of Big Wing Philanthropy. Your Excellency, also, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. Welcome and thank you. Your Excellencies, everybody, welcome to this meeting. I wish to thank you, first and foremost, everyone, for honoring our invitation to this special African Union Nutrition Champion Special event. But Your Excellencies prioritize attending this event. It's a great development for Africa. I wish to first and foremost thank His Majesty, King, let's say the third of Lesotho, for hosting this event as the African Union Champion for Nutrition. His Majesty has provided exceptional leadership in convening African heads of state and governments to rally around tackling malnutrition in Africa. Please let's give it to him. He's doing an incredible job in this. The African Leaders for Nutrition, which is supported by the African Development Bank and the Big Wing Philanthropy in partnership with the African Union Commission, has enlisted 14 heads of states and governments to address malnutrition. Thank you to my sister and friend, Jamie Cooper, the founder and chairperson of the Big Wing Philanthropy, for your partnership on this agenda. Malnutrition and stunting of children pose huge development challenges for Africa. The continent is home to about 86 million children under the age of 5 years facing malnutrition. And as far as I'm concerned, God did not make stomachs to be empty. He made them to be filled. There's absolutely no justification for any kid in Africa to go to bed hungry. About 63 million children are stunted. Over 12 million of them are overweight, and 3 million are wasting, meaning that they have low weight for their height. It's been estimated that the continent loses 2 to 3% and up to 16% of its GDP due to malnutrition. To be clear, Your Excellencies, stunted children today will lead to stunted economies tomorrow. And so, if I've got ministers of finance here, this agenda is not about health. It's not an agenda about agriculture. It's not even an agenda about water. It's an agenda about economic development. If you have stunted children today, be sure you're going to have a stunted economy tomorrow. So pay attention, ministers of finance. It is therefore critical that strong political will be deployed by heads of state and governments to tackle malnutrition. The stunting is especially serious as it deprives children of their mental and cognitive developmental skills and abilities and capabilities. This over time leads to low life expectancy and lifetime income earning possibilities. Now, we must look at malnutrition, especially stunting, from the perspective of what I call gray matter infrastructure. Stunted children are not able to learn well. They fall behind in school and they underperform. While physical infrastructure, such as roads, rail, energy, or digital infrastructure, can be fixed when they are damaged, the gray matter infrastructure, which has to do with the neurons in your brain, the brains of the kids, once damaged by stunting, are very hard to repair or to recover. And that is why the African Development Bank and the Big Wing Philanthropy brought together heads of state and government from 9 countries committed to accelerating stunting reduction, and we formed what's called the Presidential Dialogue Group. This group mobilizes the highest level of political commitment to expedite the reduction of stunting rates in heavily affected regions of their countries. Now, I know what quick action on stunting can do at a personal level. In 2016, I went on an official trip, just watch your screen. I went on an official trip to Madagascar. When I went on that trip, I went to a village in northern part of the country, the place called Bamangoki. Getting off the helicopter, I saw several children running towards the chopper. My eyes got fixated on the guy that you saw over there. He seemed to be quite curious, wondering about this chopper, much more than the other kids that I saw. I was so sure, you could see him, that he could not be more than 5 years old. And so when I bent down to ask his name, the voice that projected out to me was so strong. Clearly, this was not a 5-year-old kid. I was startled. When I asked for his age, he said he was 11 years old. This was severe malnutrition. I asked him what he wanted to be when he got older. He said he would like to be a medical doctor. Our fourth son's a medical doctor practicing in the United States. So I was touched by that. And I said to him, with your level of severe stunting, I don't see how you can become a medical doctor. So I picked up my phone and I called my wife, Grace, and I said, honey, look, I'm standing here as a little kid that wants to be like our son, wants to be a medical doctor, but he has severe stunting. There's no way he can become a medical doctor. Do I have your permission to adopt the kid? And my phone went, I said, honey, are you there? She said, yes, I'm there. You have my permission to proceed and adopt the kid. So we adopted Anthony when I was right there on the spot. We took him out of the village, put him in an environment with better access to food, water, sanitation, and education. Fast forward 7 years afterwards, Anthony is today about my height. And last month, Anthony was admitted to the medical school in Madagascar. I went to Madagascar. The minister is here to see the president in Madagascar. He was with me. Maybe if you roll it a little bit, that's with him, with the president of Madagascar. That's a little kid out of Bamangoki that I'm talking about today, and I'm so proud of him. So there is hope for millions of kids that are stunted. There are so many like Anthony out there if you can act and act early and act decisively. And that's why we call you here today as elders, as leaders. We have a duty and an obligation and a responsibility to reduce malnutrition and stunting in Africa by 40% by 2025, just 1 year from now. But the situation is not very encouraging globally. Between 2010 and 2022, the global average growth rate reduction for stunting, 1.6%, was 4 times lower than the average level that was expected by that time, 6.08, needed to achieve the global target for stunting reduction by 2030. Your Excellencies, these targets in Africa and globally will not be met unless there is reinvigorated political leadership on stunting. There is a saying, I'm a Yoruba man from Nigeria. My tribe is called Yoruba tribe. We have a saying in my tribe that says, Agba ki n wa lọ́jà, ki ori ọmọ tuntun wọ̀, which means elders cannot be in the open market or public sphere, and the head of the baby on the back of the mother slumps, because babies are strapped on the back by their mothers. Your Excellencies, today we have you here to help us make sure that we solve this problem of malnutrition and stunting in Africa. You are the elders, and the heads of these babies must not slump again on their mothers' backs. Without strong political leadership, efforts to address malnutrition will be fragmented and will lack resources and commitment. With your support, we can prioritize nutrition as a national agenda, and funds can be allocated to a multi-sectoral national action plans. We're going to hear quite a lot about those today because you have to take a multi-sectoral approach to actually solving this problem. To show the commitment of the African Development Bank to this agenda, we increased our support for multi-sectoral nutrition action plan from $700 million in 2018 to $2.8 billion by 2023, a four-fold increase. Thank you. As heads of states and government, please help ensure that we end stunting in your respective countries. Your decisions today will help turn the fortunes of millions of children around, just like it was done for Anthony. The African Development Bank, the Big Win Philanthropy, and partners such as the Islamic Development Bank, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and several others that are here today, including FAO and others, are working in strategic partnerships. I am delighted that you all are here as partners because it's only together that we can fix this problem. Today, we and all the other development partners that are here are ready to listen to you and to agree with you on a roadmap, an accountability framework, and a financing plan to support your efforts to reduce malnutrition and stunting in your respective countries. Excellencies, we count on you. 86 million children who suffer from malnutrition count on you. I know that you will make their lives like that of Anthony, to give them new possibilities. And then you will hear 86 million thank yous all across our continent from kids that are now giving new possibilities to be the best that it can be for our continent. And what a really different Africa that is going to be. So thank you very much in advance, and may God bless you for what you're doing. Before I get on from here, because I know that alone we can't do things, but together we can do incredible things. How many of you know the baobab tree is this big? You can't put your hand around it. Try it, you fail. But when you join hands of everybody around it, you can actually do the baobab tree. So I'm going to ask your excellencies that you please rise for a minute. I'm not preaching, I'm not collecting offering or anything, so please just rise for a second, please. Yeah, please kindly rise for 1 minute, just please. And now, please hold the hand of the person next to you. Just hold their hands. Yeah, we don't have any COVID anymore, nothing like that. Right. And then just simply say after me, let's have a stunting-free Africa. Let's have an Africa without malnutrition. We can do it. Now let's do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's not always that one sees excellencies and VIPs being bashful about holding hands together, but thank you very much for honoring that request by Dr. Adesina. Dr. Adesina, thank you very much for passionately setting the agenda for us during this high-level roundtable, focusing on the imperative of fast-tracking investments across Africa that are designed to radically reduce stunting and accelerate nutrition and investments across the food and nutrition value chains. Ladies and gentlemen, I think one of the things that we've just seen from the short presentation that Dr. Adesina made, it wasn't so much about the passionate call, but if there's one thing that we should not miss, it is simply this. Every single one of us in this room, either as an organization, as an institution, but more importantly, as individuals, can make a difference in the life of someone. And that difference has generational consequences. So I think if there's one thing that we need to take away from here, this is not rhetoric. This is not talk. This is a matter of life and death, and a matter that makes a difference for generations to come. Dr. Adesina, thank you for the difference that you've made in Anthony's life. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a warm round of applause. Thank you very much. Well, for decades, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, has played a pivotal and visionary role in global food and nutrition. And so we're exceptionally honored to have with us today Mrs. Farai Zimutsi, the FAO representative here in Ethiopia, representing the Director General, Q Dong-yu, who, like Dr. Adesina, shares a lifelong passion for nutrition and for food. As she comes to the podium, please give her an equally warm round of applause.
Your Excellency, Madam Saleh Work Zewde, the President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Lesotho, the Right Honorable Ntatem Matekane, the President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Adesina, heads of state and government that are gathered here, heads of international organizations and development partners, distinguished ministers, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is my singular pleasure and honor this evening to be standing in the shoes of my Director General, Mr. Q Dong-yu, who is unable to attend this very important meeting due to other commitments elsewhere in the world. As we all know, achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and more specifically, goal number 2, which strives to end hunger and achieve food security, improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture, remains a high priority in Africa's regional and national development agendas. However, despite some progress that has been made in parts of the continent, Africa is facing serious food security and nutrition challenges. The evidence shows us that hunger has been worsening considerably since 2019, and Africa is neither on track to meet SDG 2 nor to meet the Malabo commitment to end hunger by 2025. With only 6 years left to achieve the SDGs and only 1 year left to achieve the Malabo targets, it is inconceivable and highly unlikely that Africa will meet these commitments and therefore the continent's aspirations. An estimated 282 people were undernourished in the continent in 2022. And according to the latest UN report of 2023 on the state of food security and nutrition in the world, figures show that among under 5 children, 59 million suffer from stunting and 14 million suffer from wasting. Today, there are more stunted children than 20 years ago, and Africa is the only region whose stunting figures are on the rising trend. In addition to hunger, millions of Africans suffer from widespread micronutrient deficiencies. Overweight and obesity are already significant, and already significant public health concerns in many countries. Moreover, estimates show that in 2021, most of Africa's population, about 78%, could not afford healthy diets compared to 42% globally. The average cost of a healthy diet has been increasing over time and was at $3.57 per person per day in 2021 on the continent, which is much higher than the extreme poverty threshold of $2.15 US per person per day. This means that not only are people experiencing poverty, but also a large proportion of them are defined as non-poor and therefore cannot afford a healthy diet. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, advancing progress against malnutrition will require deliberate and sustainable investment in nutrition and nutrition-sensitive agri-food systems. Evidence confirms that there is a significant return on investment for countries with proper nutrition financing mechanisms. With every $1 invested in nutrition, it can generate $16 in terms of returns. Reducing malnutrition could increase overall national economic productivity by 11%, as measured by GDP per capita. For example, for 15 African countries, meeting the 2025 World Health Assembly targets for stunting would add $83 billion to national income. As was made clear by the previous speaker, fighting malnutrition makes economic sense. Therefore, nutrition-sensitive development investments are required to complement and support direct nutrition-specific initiatives. Investments in natural resources, agriculture, food systems, trade, and commerce are essential to improve the availability, affordability, and preparation and consumption of nutritious foods. These investments may come from international financing institutions, international organizations, multilateral agencies, and public resources at the country level, and even from farmers themselves and the private sector. To achieve more resilient agri-food systems for food security and better nutrition, there is a need to put in place a set of sustainable requirements for financing responsible and inclusive public and private investments. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, FAO would like to appreciate the efforts of His Majesty King Lesia III of the Kingdom of Lesotho, who is the African Union Nutrition Champion and FAO Nutrition Ambassador. In addition, also to appreciate the efforts of African leaders for nutrition, the African Union Commission, the African Development Bank, and the Presidential Dialogue Group Development Partners, Nutrition International, and all partners present for their continued efforts in mobilizing resources and private sector engagement in the fight against hunger and malnutrition on the continent. FAO is also advocating and driving more investment in the agriculture sector, including through the flagship programs that the organization has put in place. These include the Hand in Hand initiative, which supports the implementation of nationally led ambitious programs to accelerate agri-food systems transformation by eradicating poverty, ending hunger and malnutrition, and reducing inequalities. SDG 1, 2, and 10, respectively. It uses advanced geospatial modeling and analytics, as well as a robust partnership-building approach to accelerate the market-based transformation of agri-food systems to raise incomes, improve nutritional status, and well-being of poor and vulnerable populations, as well as to strengthen resilience to climate change. Doing so requires explicitly considering nutrition in investments and costing of the required financing. In this regard, members of Parliament bear a critical responsibility in ensuring adequate budgets for nutrition. MPs should advocate for and approve budgets that are in line with the AU's commitments to strengthen agri-food systems that support healthy diets and improved nutrition to advance the continent's food security and nutrition agenda. In 2022, during the African Union Year of Nutrition, the Pan-African Parliament adopted a model law on food security and nutrition for Africa, developed with the support of FAO. The model law guides countries seeking to establish national and subnational legislation on the right to adequate food. I applaud the parliamentarians involved in this important work. In the same vein, FAO has supported the formation of parliamentary alliances for food and nutrition security at national and subnational levels, which help catalyze the work of food and nutrition champions. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, new funding sources, including green financing, stand to play a critical role in fighting malnutrition on the continent. FAO, through its corporate strategy for better production, better nutrition, better environment, and better life, leaving no one behind, remains committed to working with the African Union member states, farmers, other value chain actors, and all strategic partners to find long-lasting solutions to the problems of hunger and malnutrition, thus definitely leaving no one behind. I thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. Well, many thanks, Mrs. Imudzi, for your thoughts on global food challenges, especially of malnutrition and stunting, and for highlighting FAO's strategic role. This evening, we're really grateful to have with us today somebody whose mandate, mission, and mantra is helping Africa connect the dots between health and development. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podium Her Excellency Minata Samate Sesuma, the African Union's Commissioner for Health, Humanitarian Affairs, and Social Development, as she comes to the platform.
Je vais aller en français. Bonsoir, mesdames et messieurs. Peut-être ceux qui ne parlent pas français, je leur laisse un peu de temps pour prendre les micros. Je vais aller en français. Excellence, Madame Sahle-Work Zewde, présidente de la République fédérale démocratique d'Éthiopie, Honorable Samuel Sokwane Matekane, Premier ministre du Royaume du Lesotho, Honorable vice-président de la République de Sierra Leone, Honorable ministre, nous avons beaucoup de ministres dans la salle que je tiens à saluer. Ils représentent leurs chefs d'État qui sont des champions en matière de nutrition. Je tiens à dire merci à mon frère Adesina de la BAD. Merci pour ce que vous faites pour nous aider à mettre fin à la malnutrition sur le continent. Je connais votre engagement dans la nutrition et également pour mettre fin au retard de croissance. Je saluerai aussi le président de Afrexim Bank. On a d'autres banques qui sont avec nous, sans oublier les partenaires. Je ne pourrai pas tous les citer, vous regardez la liste. Je tiens à leur dire merci, que ce soit les partenaires bilatéraux, les partenaires multilatéraux qui nous accompagnent au quotidien dans cette lutte contre la malnutrition. Je tiens à saluer aussi la présence des représentants des États membres de l'Union africaine. Je vois des partenaires bilatéraux, multilatéraux et des collègues, et sans oublier aussi certaines organisations comme Gavi. Merci, M. Barroso, d'être avec nous. Et on a Bill Gates, on a AUIA, on a Nutrition Internationale. Merci pour votre soutien aussi à la Commission. Mesdames et messieurs, chez moi, on dit tout protocole dûment respecté. Je m'excuse auprès de ceux dont je n'ai pas pu citer les noms parce que Je suis vraiment ému de voir cette crème de la crème engagée dans la lutte contre la nutrition et j'en suis vraiment ému. Merci beaucoup pour votre présence. J'ai l'agréable honneur de vous souhaiter la bienvenue. La bienvenue pour cet événement au nom du président Faki qui s'excuse. Il était à une cérémonie et j'étais là-bas aussi avec la présidente ZO2. J'ai pu voir son engagement sur l'éducation, également l'engagement de l'Éthiopie pour mettre fin à la malnutrition. J'ai l'habitude de dire que l'Éthiopie a un programme qui a permis de réduire le retard de croissance et d'autres pays aussi. C'est l'occasion d'échanger et puis d'apprendre les uns des autres. Je tiens, mesdames et messieurs, à saluer Sa Majesté le roi du Lesotho, à travers lui, son Excellence, Monsieur le Premier ministre, pour son engagement. J'ai eu l'occasion de travailler avec lui, il est engagé et son pays fait un excellent travail pour mettre fin à la malnutrition et surtout la sensibilisation de ses pairs, les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, pour qu'ils puissent prendre à bras le corps la question de la nutrition. Soyez mon interprète, Monsieur le Premier ministre, pour remercier Sa Majesté pour cet engagement. Je voudrais aussi saluer, comme je le disais, beaucoup de ministres sont dans la salle. Ils représentent les champions. Le champion, le roi du Lesotho, mais il y a d'autres chefs d'État aussi qui sont engagés. Je vois le président de Côte d'Ivoire. Merci aux ministres qui représentent le président de la République de Côte d'Ivoire. Je ne peux que rappeler la réunion que nous avons eue. Nous avons eu le thème de l'année 2022 sur la nutrition. Et la Côte d'Ivoire a été un partenaire avec une grande réunion sur cette question, avec une déclaration que nous allons mettre en œuvre aussi avec vous tous. Je n'oublierai pas aussi le président du Botswana, Madagascar, Sierra Leone, Ghana et d'autres personnalités, d'autres chefs d'État qui se sont engagés dans cette lutte contre la nutrition. Vous conviendrez avec moi que l'initiative que nous avons pour lutter contre la malnutrition arrive à propos parce que notre agenda 2063 et aussi l'agenda 2030 des Nations Unies met l'accent sur des populations en bonne santé et qui soient bien nourries. Vous conviendrez que ce combat mérite qu'on passe à l'action. On a suffisamment parlé, il faut une action collective. En voyant tout ce panel, je me rends compte que cette action, nous pouvons réussir. Et mon frère Adésina l'a dit, ensemble, nous allons vaincre et nous allons lutter contre la malnutrition et gagner ce combat. Si nous voulons justement réaliser les objectifs de l'agenda 2063. Lutter contre la malnutrition, cela suppose aussi un engagement financier. Malheureusement, cela fait défaut. C'est en cela que je salue les banques qui sont avec nous, le secteur privé. Nous tous, nous devons engager si nous voulons vraiment mettre fin à ce fléau sur le continent. Il nous faut des investissements multisectoriels qui soient renforcés parce qu'on ne peut pas parler de nutrition sans parler agriculture. On ne peut pas parler de nutrition sans parler santé, d'où la nécessité de tenir compte et d'investir dans tous ces secteurs si nous voulons mettre fin à la malnutrition. Je ne reviendrai pas sur les chiffres. Ma sœur qui a parlé, elle a parlé des chiffres et c'est effrayant ces chiffres. Lorsqu'on vous dit que 149 millions d'enfants de moins de 5 ans souffrent d'un retard de croissance, qu'est-ce que nous voulons si on a ce genre d'enfants avec des cerveaux? J'ai eu l'occasion de discuter avec Nutrition Internationale. Le cerveau d'un enfant malnutri est tout petit et celui qui est bien nourri, il est grand, il peut réussir à l'école, mais il faut nous battre pour mettre fin justement à cette situation au niveau de 149 millions d'enfants. On a 50 millions qui sont émaciés, qui sont très faibles. Et on ne peut pas bâtir cette Afrique avec des populations qui ne peuvent pas contribuer. La carence nutritionnelle, dans beaucoup de nos sociétés, on mange. On dit qu'on a bien mangé alors qu'il n'y a pas les micronutriments qu'il faut. Malheureusement, on vit aujourd'hui des cas où la population africaine aussi connaît l'obésité, le surcroît. Il nous faut travailler justement pour mettre fin à cela, parce que cela crée aussi des inégalités. En matière de nutrition, bien sûr, ça va avec la santé, mais le nombre, particulièrement au niveau du continent, est important. Lorsqu'on vous dit un enfant sur 4, c'est énorme et il nous faut travailler. Mais en ma qualité de commissaire en charge de la santé, des affaires humanitaires et du développement social, je suis consciente que nous devons gagner cette lutte de la malnutrition, du retard de croissance, parce que nous voulons mettre fin à la pauvreté et au sous-développement sur le continent. Je ne saurais oublier nous-mêmes, États membres. Il faut, et c'est en cela je salue les représentants des... La première responsabilité, c'est nous-mêmes au sein du continent africain. Nos leaders, je salue les leaders qui sont là. Nous devons prendre à bras le corps. Personne ne viendra faire ça pour nous. Il nous faut nous-mêmes nous engager et les autres vont nous soutenir. Parfois, ça ne dépend pas de nous, les causes de cette malnutrition. Malheureusement, les conflits, les changements climatiques, des questions de gouvernance, et nous payons très fort ce prix, justement. Il nous faut réduire à 0 le nombre de personnes qui souffrent de la faim. Malheureusement, nous avons beaucoup de personnes. Je n'insisterai pas sur les statistiques, c'est décourageant. Mais nous ne devons pas nous décourager, parce qu'il nous faut nous battre justement pour arriver avec détermination à trouver des solutions pratiques à cette situation. Les défis sont énormes, c'est normal, c'est humain. Lorsque vous vivez, il y a des défis, mais c'est ensemble que nous pourrons relever ce défi. Et comme je disais, qu'on puisse avoir cultivé. Et l'Afrique est capable de cultiver. On a de l'eau, on a 60% de terres cultivables, on a tout. Pourquoi nous ne produisons pas? C'est en cela qu'il faut encourager les jeunes à aller vers l'agriculture, qu'on puisse varier et manger aussi ce que nous produisons. En notre qualité, représentant la Commission de l'Union africaine, nous sommes prêts à être avec vous, à travailler avec vous pour mettre fin à cette situation. Nous avons parlé du thème de l'éducation. Madame la Présidente était à cette réunion pour le lancement du thème. Il faut aussi faire ce lien entre l'éducation et la nutrition. Je vois les school feeding et particulièrement pour les filles. On ne le sait pas, mais les filles ont des problèmes de malnutrition liés même à leur qualité de fille, parce que nous avons des contraintes, nous femmes, que les hommes n'ont pas, et cela crée une malnutrition. Dans cette lutte, nous ne devons pas oublier cette frange de la population et puis les femmes. Pour conclure, je voudrais réaffirmer l'engagement de la Commission de l'Union africaine à travailler avec vous pour éliminer la malnutrition, le retard de croissance et accélérer la transformation du continent africain avec des investissements multisectoriels renforcés et surtout, j'insiste, l'appropriation de toutes nos stratégies par nos États membres, et nous comptons sur nos partenaires bilatéraux et multilatéraux que ces partenaires puissent nous accompagner. Voilà quelques mots que je tenais à dire en vous remerciant vraiment pour votre présence et votre engagement. Et ensemble, nous allons gagner ce combat pour les générations futures. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Minata Samate Sesuma, for your illuminating opening remarks and also for the passion that you bring to the table on these critical issues to add to the weight of conviction and voices at this roundtable focused on malnutrition, or rather on food, nutrition, and transformational development, as well as multi-sectoral investments. Please welcome the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Lesotho, the Right Honorable Samuel Matikane, as he comes to officially open this high-level roundtable on behalf of His Majesty, King Letsie III of the Kingdom of Lesotho. And we're so grateful to the Kingdom of Lesotho for playing a critical role in convening this high-level roundtable. Your Excellency, the podium is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much.
Your Excellency, President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Madam Sahle Workzwede. Excellencies, heads of state and government here present, honorable ministers present, Your Excellency Ambassador Minata Samate Sesuma, Commissioner for Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development of the African Union, Dr. Aginguni Adesina, President of the African Development Bank Group, heads of diplomatic mission and international organizations, development partners, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of His Majesty King Letsie III, Head of State of the Kingdom of Lesotho, African Union Champion for Nutrition, and the Food and Agriculture Organization Goodwill Ambassador for Nutrition, I wish to convey my gratitude to the African Union Commission for their tremendous support and collaboration in hosting this high-level side event on addressing malnutrition, catalyzing Africa's transformation through enhanced multi-sectoral investment. This event is taking place when approximately 86 million children aged below 5 in Africa are facing various forms of malnutrition. Out of this number, 63 million are standard, while 10 million are overweight and 3 million are wasted. The findings of the cost of hunger in Africa, COHA, studies have shown that malnutrition has far-reaching implications, not only on individual health, but also on societal progress, hindering educational attainment and diminishing work productivity, with many African countries losing around 1.9% to 16.5% gross development product, GDP, annually. The cost of a healthy diet of $3.06 per person per day is not affordable to many people, and the number of undernourished people in Africa is projected to increase to 51.5%, marking a focus on transforming food systems an urgent priority. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, despite the malnutrition challenges facing the African child, our continent is making notable progress in ensuring that our children are well nourished and well equipped to face the future. In 2023, at least 30% of the children under 5 years were standard, down from 34% in 2012. In addition, the number of African Union member states with high prevalence of stunting has declined from 46 in 2012 to 28 in 2023. Although the progress is noteworthy, 15 countries have a high prevalence exceeding 30% and are home to 42 million out of 63 million children that are standard on the continent. The progress that the continent has made in reducing stunting is too slow to help us achieve the target of a 40% reduction by 2025. Apart from stunting, countries were expected to ensure there was no increase in the prevalence of overweight among children under 5 years by 2025. Over the last decade, the number of overweight children has increased from 8.8 million in 2012 to 10.2 million in 2022. Close to 25 countries in Africa are not on track to achieve the World Health Assembly target. Only 10 countries are on track to meet the target. With regard to reducing wasting, 19 AU member states are on track to reduce and maintain childhood wasting to below 5%. However, there are significant regional differences that are important to note. Some member states, such as South Sudan, Sudan, Eritrea, and Somalia, carry the highest burden of childhood wasting. In the same token, the prevalence of anemia has increased beyond the baseline level of 2012 across 25 AU member states over the last decade. About 122.7 million women aged between 15 to 49 years in Africa suffer from anemia. The West African region carries the highest burden, with 47.3 million women aged between 15 to 49 years are affected, followed by the East Africa with 33.8 million. Tackling anemia among adolescent girls and women aged between 15 and 49 years is key to bringing forth healthy and well-nourished children. I call upon all AU member states to embrace a multi-sectoral approach to addressing anemia that moves beyond addressing iron deficiencies and includes other direct causes and risk factors, such as chronic diseases and inherited red blood cells disorders. Excellencies, our commitment as leaders remains a pivotal pillar in driving policy and legislative actions to tackle malnutrition. Member states need to adopt stronger policies and increase financing for nutrition in order to turn the tide of malnutrition and secure the future of our children. I must commend the AU chairperson for embarking on the development of a strategic framework on prevention and management of anemia in Africa. A multi-sectoral nutrition policy framework and a funding target for nutrition investment in Africa. These strategic documents will guide and guarantee domestic resource allocation for nutrition programming. I also wish to call upon all nutrition leaders, including the members of the Presidential Dialogue Group, to spearhead the development of multi-sectoral interventions that address malnutrition in all its forms across sectors such as health, education, agriculture, social protection, water, and sanitation. The AU theme of the year, with a focus on education, presents yet another unique opportunity for member states to drive increased integration of nutrition within the education sector. I further call upon leaders to remain committed and strive for full implementation of all political declarations on nutrition that were made in 2022 and 2023. Excellencies, to maintain the momentum created over the years, during the AU Year of Nutrition and the initial decade of implementing the Agenda 2063, I urge AU member states to take advantage of forthcoming moments such as the World Health Assembly, Scaling Up Nutrition Movement Global Gathering, and the Nutrition for Growth meetings that will be held later this year, to refocus and recommit increased investment towards tackling malnutrition. I wish to conclude by calling on AU member states to share lessons learned in addressing malnutrition as a way to fast-track the achievement of the global and continental targets on nutrition by using data and evidence to inform investment decisions and ensure member state-level accountability. I look forward to a very fruitful engagement during this high-level forum. I thank you.
I know it's a little late in the evening, but I think we can give the Right Honorable Prime Minister Matekane even a warmer round of applause. Thank you so much. There we go. That's more like it. That's more like it. That's more like it. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for the very insightful updates on the progress being made by the African nutrition leaders, especially as championed by King Letse III. Thank you very, very much for all that you continue to do and the political support that you continue to provide. Well, we're now going to transition very briefly to a short, and I underline in bold, short, video presentation on global agriculture and food security. And it so happens that since we're talking about food, the timing is just perfect. I see that the starters are being served. Thank you very much. Please give the waiters a round of applause for perfect timing.
Nama nembazi ejitonze bakwancha yako yafe kumabala mukubomba so engombe mulando kwa chali chepero wakweli ngikubomfya na makasi ukubomba ukulima na makasi baka skulu mwashitisha mwa bomfya ko mpia mwa shira ko baka skulu ma uniform tishatu wafa muri yo shira wafa ngombe kwena palino study mingana shikana wo shiri 8 kuli mokuchali kwa kwa shiri 4 ngombe eshafwa so twashala nengombe shinga shitatu apa pene ngombe foto endanga tureshitwala kulya kwani center mukishitibisha tuluvali twafitekwa turashitwala kudipishako kabiri ngombe kutishaikala bwino muku twafuwa kwenu mwatwafuilisha kupa kuti shatwaliro ngombe.
Located in Zambia's Serenje district, the Livestock Service Center is one of the country's 6 centers established by the Agriculture Productivity and Marketing Enhancement Project. These centers provide vital support to small-scale livestock owners, offering expert veterinary care and training to strengthen livestock production.
The Global Agriculture and Food Security Program, the African Development Bank, and the Government Republic of Zambia came together to implement this project to enhance the potential that agriculture has to become like the mainstay of the Zambian economy.
The project was implemented in 6 of the country's provinces, where a series of initiatives have been designed to cohesively meet its goals in the fields of irrigation, crop and livestock development, aquaculture, and agro-processing.
I was picked as one of their lead farmers for rice production when it was being introduced. This is a Dambo area. Normally it floods during rain season, so no farming activity used to take place in this area. Rice can only do better in water. So that's how we decided to start doing rice farming in this Dambo. I did well. I managed to do 8 hectares. I realized money to pay for my tractor. In fact, rice has come at the right time when we were struggling to improve our living standards. In terms of money, rice has come out number 1. Historically, cassava has been grown here as a major staple food. It's only grown for our own home consumption. It's really difficult for us to process the product that we can sell outside.
In most of these communities, the issue has been access to markets. So the project set up 30 metric tons cassava milling plant in Chitambo district. And this one is supposed to produce cassava flour, cassava meal, and cassava starch and feed. With the establishment of the cassava milling plant, farmers have a ready market within their vicinity.
It's quite promising that the cassava that we produce will now be on demand by the other markets. The other source of income that used to be here was fishing. There was a time when fish was depleted in our main river, Luomba River. Later, it was mentioned to me that there was a training for fish farming. I found it was very good because you find that the time you are not selling your crop, it is quite good to diversify because it gives also an opportunity to have some other source of income. You know, the way you see my farm is not what it used to be previously. I had a hut. Now with the coming of the project, it has moved me from that level to that level where you found me, where I'm able to have tapped water. My children are not getting water from the open well. I've managed to take them to colleges. I've greatly improved since the coming of the project.
Lives have literally been transformed in the districts of implementation. The project has really set the stage for bigger things to come in the future.
And all across Africa, we are making a difference. Given our huge resources in land, in water, in labor, and the huge potential that we have as a continent, we have a responsibility to get it right. We are exceptionally honored and delighted to have with us today African heads of state and government, vice presidents, and ministers. I see quite a number of them around the table. And in your individual ways, you're confronting head-on the perennial challenges of malnutrition and stunting, because it's a multi-sectoral issue, and you are making a difference. We know that. We're truly grateful today that you've taken time out of your very busy schedules here at the African Union Summit to be with us late this evening. We're going to proceed right now with our first high-level roundtable conversation. And it gives me great honor to welcome to the platform, to take a seat on the platform, Her Excellency Sahle-Work Zewde, the President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. I know we're eating, but we can give her a warmer round of applause, more so that she's hosting us here in Ethiopia. President Sahle-Work, please join us on the platform. Give her a warm round of applause, please. Excellency. And Her Excellency Sahle-Work will be joined by His Excellency, the Vice President of Sierra Leone, the Honorable Julde Jallow. Thank you for being with us. And if you could take a seat just to the left of President Zewde, that'd be great. But thank you very much for honoring our guests with your attention this evening. I think what I find astounding the most about the report is the fact that across 240 districts all across Ethiopia, 22 million children have been impacted. So for those in the audience who have similar challenges in their own countries, what would you consider to be the critical success factors that have helped Ethiopia accelerate its fight against malnutrition?
Thank you very much, Victor. I'm happy to be with you, but it's always difficult to stand between a meal and other activities. So I'm sorry to be standing here in between your dinner and the panel. But nevertheless, I'm happy to participate in this session because I have been involved for quite some time in this process. I remember with the ADB back in 2019 on the margins of the General Assembly of the United Nations. I think it's a good opportunity for us in Ethiopia to talk about the success story this program that you have is called the Sekota Declaration. Sekota is a city in the northern part of Ethiopia where this has been launched. It was launched in 2005, and it was a 15 years program to end, stunting by 2030. That was the ambition that we had. And so this is how, it's a bold commitment that the government at that time took. It has 3 phases. One is innovation, then the expansion, and the third one is scaling up the program. Each of the phases was 5 years, commitment. It has been, as you have said, implemented in 240 districts, the result has been really amazing. The 191, I think, let me see my notes, from the 240 are the geographic areas where we work with the Big Win philanthropy. In this work that has been done, 14 sector ministries were involved in working together.
So this wasn't just the Ministry of Agriculture.
No, it's not.
It's health, it's agriculture,
it's
education.
water, it's education,
Fantastic.
women and girls, and so on. The process that led us to that, it's the high prevalence of stunting in Ethiopia. And second, also the slow rate in terms of reducing the annual average stunting reduction. And when we saw that, it was very clear that we will never meet the goal.
Madam President, I really want to jump in here because I want to ask a political question. For decades, the tendency has been that the issues of food and stunting have been relegated either to health or to agriculture. What was it that your government did to ensure that this really became a multi-sectoral approach and one that was taken very, very seriously?
This stunting issue was given to the Ministry of Health. And we have seen through years that things were not moving. It's not only, sorry, but I have to look at you. It's only at the Ministry of Health, things couldn't move. And as I said, the rate was in fact not reducing, if not going up. So we had to have this sectorial, multi-sectorial approach. In fact, 14 of them were involved, but not only. This is what has been done at the national level, ministries, but it has trickled down to the sub-national level, the regional level, where the regions were very much involved in this, and in fact, matching with what the national government was giving. Then we went to partners. So it's the government, national government, regional governments, and then the main funder, which is the African Development Bank, that has helped us. And this is a good opportunity for me to thank its president, my junior brother, President Adeshina, for the support that we have gotten from the bank. And this has, the impact has been very dramatic because in terms of illness and death, in terms of educational performance, obviously, and the inadequate workforce productivity. So one sector alone intervention is not enough in addressing this. That has been very clearly shown. The other thing, this is a multi-sectoral, it's the ownership as well. At the federal level, it's under the leadership of the Deputy Prime Minister, so all concerned ministries would be involved. And at the regional level, the program was led by the regional presidents. I think the governance, the commitment, and the involvement at the highest level has helped us move. The challenge is still there, of course. It's a huge thing that we have to do, but the progress is really encouraging. That's what I can say.
Well, thank you very much, Your Excellency, very much appreciated. And in addition to the amazing work that you're doing in the area of nutrition, that's okay, in the areas of nutrition and development, I just want to throw out here, if you really, really want to know what Ethiopia is doing in the area of wheat, a transformation of unprecedented proportions has taken place there over the last 4 years, where they've just gone from wheat dependence to complete wheat self-sufficiency, all in the span of 4 years. I think we can give Her Excellency and the government of Ethiopia a round of applause. And I'm going to come next to the Vice President of Sierra Leone. Again, some of the challenges that we deal with across Africa are similar, but I want to focus here, Vice President Jallow, on what it is that your country is doing to improve food security in the country, and how is the plan designed to tackle malnutrition at speed and at scale? Because this is a perennial issue. We've been talking about it for ages, so we cannot adopt a business as usual approach. What is it that your new government intends to do that is fundamentally different?
Well, thank you very much. You know, we took over in 2018, and when we came, our interventions essentially around that area was informed by our experiences in terms of how the gravity of the situation. Our experiences showed when in 2018 I came, this scaling up nutrition is placed under the office of the Vice President. And there I visited several hospitals and several regions, and I realized there are huge challenges in terms of access, in terms of governance, in terms of inadequate financing. And it is based on that experience that we are able to put in place very strong interventionist actions. The first is that we realize that we have to move from the reactive logic to a preventive logic. Meaning, if we continue to spend money on therapeutic food to address malnutrition, it is not going to solve the problem. So we designed a national program called Feed Sierra Leone that we enrolled this year. That is essentially to address the overall food and nutrition security issues in the country. The objective of that program is essentially to increase domestic food production by 65% and reduce hunger by 50%. The other thing we realize is that there is need for increased financing. Because when you look at the finances that are addressed to fighting nutrition, like you just said, they are usually lost under the Ministry of Agriculture or the Ministry of Health. And if they are lost under the Ministry of Agriculture or Ministry of Health, the challenges are usually that when there are other urgent priorities like vaccines and medicines, those resources that are designed for nutrition are automatically transferred to those emergencies. So you hardly get the real financing specified for nutrition to get to the sector. So automatically what we did was to call the Minister of Finance and all the ministries for the Minister of Finance to create a dedicated budgetary line. For the first time in the history of Sierra Leone, we have a budget line that is on nutrition, specifically on nutrition. So we take that money, so we are able to use that resources on the nutrition match window. So if we give $300,000, for example, UNICEF match it with 300. So because it is not placed under a specific ministry, we can use it, so it allows us the flexibility. The other challenge we realize in terms of increasing financing, we increase the financing on that, is a governance challenge. And then we also, when I moved around the country, to assess the state of nutrition, and because I also supervise the Ministry of Health, I went to a particular hospital in a region, and I went to the maternal center, and I asked, where are the pregnant women? And they told me all the pregnant women, most of them have left to go in search of food in the neighboring towns. And then automatically it struck me that there's a very strong relationship between malnutrition and maternal health. Because if you have a malnourished pregnant woman, the tendency for that pregnant woman to even deliver safely or to deliver a healthy baby is very difficult. So during then, I also realized that another sector that was also very critical to malnutrition is the Ministry of Water and Sanitation. Because if you increase wash facilities, you are also going to increase the nutrition rate. We also came to realize that in all of this, the Ministry of Finance is also very important. So we established a multi-sectoral team in the Office of the Vice President to make sure that we don't only limit ourselves to the scaling up nutrition partners that involve national and development partners, but within government itself, I have critical ministers that pay attention to nutrition issues. We know, like you just said, the data are not favorable in Sierra Leone, also in the sub-region. In Sierra Leone today, 26%, of children under 5 are stunted. And we have relatively a caseload of about 63,000 kids that are really in higher risk. And since 2019, when we started to roll out those interventions I just spoke about, we have seen a very slow reduction. We moved in 2019 from 29% to 26% today where we are. It is 3%. It is still very, very slow. In addition to that, we have also decided that another critical factor in all of this is information. We wanted to have the right data. We wanted to gather data. So for the first time in 2021, we roll out a national nutrition survey, so that from this survey, we get data, and so that decisions that we make are going to be informed by data. We also established the multi-sectoral information gathering and data dashboard in 2023 to enable all partners, national development partners, also to report directly to this dashboard so that we get first-hand information about what is unfolding there. But like I said, the critical factor in terms of investment I see in nutrition is not only to invest money to buy food, like therapeutic food, or to improve nutrition clinics that we have established right across the country, but also there's a need to invest as well in the policy and governance line. What does that mean? It means sometimes we make a lot of commitment. Like, for example, in Sierra Leone, we have 10 nutrition for growth commitment. 2, it's on stunting. The other remaining 8 is on governance and financing. So, but the focus, our experience in Sierra Leone have shown that even the governance architecture, how it functions, how it responds to addressing nutrition is critical. Because you can have fantastic commitment, but they cannot be translated into tangible results on the ground if you also don't invest in how you approach, in the methodology, how you approach this, by bringing all the critical ministries. So that is what we have been doing so far. And like I said, our focus is to be on the preventive mode. Increase food production so that at least we are able to tackle it hands-on. But there are still challenges.
Thank you very much, Vice President. Absolutely, innovation is key, policies are key, but implementation is much more important. As Dr. Adishna likes to say, stomachs were designed to be fed. But we do know that the issue of malnutrition is a perennial one. And it's one that we have to face boldly, strategically, and differently over the years to come, given the huge population expansion that we're expecting over the next 30 years. My charge, at least as the moderator of this session, is that as we as leaders continue to put resources into huge infrastructure, whether it be hard infrastructure, let us be mindful that the soft infrastructure of the belly of a child is much more critical. Your Excellencies, I want to use this opportunity, President Sally Worksworthy and President Jallo, Vice President Jallo, I want to say a big thank you and huge encouragement all the way for all that you're doing in Sierra Leone and Ethiopia. You deserve a round of applause from our guests here today. But just before you go, your nutrition programs are targeted at what age group, what demographic?
Well, the survey that we conducted so far, the focus, like I told you, within the Feed Sierra Leone program, is to increase food production.
What's the age demographic?
The age demographic for nutrition.
Yes.
The under 5. We have
under 5.
We tackled the under 5, and then also young girls between 5 and 11 years old.
Okay, thank you very much.
The interesting point I wanted to make is just like when the president of the ADB was talking.
I know I opened a Pandora box here, but I just wanted to get
the point is that there's a very strong relationship, the data in Sierra Leone have shown, between nutrition and infant and maternal health.
Absolutely.
It's very important. It's not only the cognitive part, because the data we receive shows that the leading factor of infant health before 5 is malnutrition.
Absolutely, absolutely. And President Sade, what's the age demographic that you're targeting in Ethiopia?
The focus is on children under 2.
Children under 2,
yes.
Okay.
Yes, because that 1,000 days are critical.
Absolutely, absolutely. Once again, congratulations and thank you very much for joining us on this panel today. Please give our Excellencies a warm round of applause as they leave. Thank you, Excellency. Thank you, Vice President. Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, for all that you continue to do as we face the challenges of malnutrition across our continent. With your vision, your passion, your energy, your foresight, and your political will, I make bold to say that nothing, absolutely nothing, is impossible. Your political will and continued support is most appreciated. And there's a reason why I was asking what the age demographic is. And our Excellencies are on the right track because the first 2 years are the most critical. But even above those years, there's also a challenge with children in primary schools, secondary schools, and believe it or not, up to the university level. So I think our holistic approach also needs to look at a wider demographic as we move forward. Dr. Adesina may not like me to say this, but I'm going to share a very quick example, 30 seconds here. He and I used to attend the same university in Nigeria. We were very close friends, and we came from very, very poor families. We came from very poor families that could barely afford to keep us in university. I remember once we could only afford to drink Gary, I'm sure you all know what Gary is, for 3 days. And we were excited because it filled our stomachs. But on the 3rd day, I noticed that Dr. Adesina's eyes were bulging, and so too were mine. Your Excellency, thank you very much. I noticed that our eyes were bulging. And safe to say, in a very short period of time, we were suffering from malnutrition even as adults. So it's a critical issue and one that I encourage our leaders to give all of your support to, all of your energies to. We're going to transition very, very quickly right now to our second high-level roundtable, and this includes our panelists of senior government ministers who we're glad to have with us today. And each one of them will provide context and country-specific solutions to malnutrition and stunting. So once again, please join me in welcoming our panelists to the platform. I'm going to start with the representative of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the President of Nigeria, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, represented by the Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Mohammed Ali Pate, who brings a tremendous amount of experience to this field. Please join us on the platform and take a seat. Dr. Pate will be joined very quickly by Honorable January Mkamba, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the United Republic of Tanzania. Is he in the room? Yes, no? No? Okay, so we will move along. Second, the Honorable Camelia Rita Namashula, the Minister of Education and Human Development, Republic of Mozambique. And as she takes her seat, we welcome our next panelist, Honorable Madalisto Wema, the Minister of Education, the Republic of Malawi. Thank you for joining us. Absolutely. Minister Wema will be joined by the Honorable Nakuchima Wafula, the Cabinet Secretary for Health, the Republic of Kenya. Is he with us? No? Okay. Just a little bit of housekeeping here. And finally, by the Honorable Mrs. Rosata Rava Vita Fika, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Madagascar. One of the things I like about this panel is that it's extremely diverse, and it proves once again that the issue of malnutrition and tackling stunting is a multi-sectoral, multifaceted one. So I'm going to start in the order that you appeared on the platform and in reverse, but let me start with the Honorable Mrs. Rosata Rava Vita Fika concerning Madagascar. Could we kindly have your attention, please? Could we kindly have your attention, please? Could we kindly have your attention? Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, Madagascar was hit with not one, but two cyclones in 2023 that resulted in more than 1.5 million people experiencing food insecurity due to agriculture and infrastructural damage. That was just last year. So how is Madagascar advancing nutrition and managing the aftermath of that crisis?
Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, je tiens tout d'abord à vous remercier pour l'invitation qui a été faite, présenter les excuses de son Excellence, Monsieur le Président Ange Rajoelina, qui n'a pas pu venir à cet événement. Effectivement, Madagascar connaît, particulièrement dans le sud de la Grande Île, divers épisodes de famine et de sécheresse. La situation dans le grand sud de Madagascar fait que malheureusement notre grande île est connue pour la malnutrition qui y règne. Tout d'abord, j'aimerais aussi présenter quelques réalités qui font que la situation reste difficile, mais en tout cas, plusieurs efforts ont été menés par le gouvernement, à commencer par la mise en place de projets tels que le titre vert. C'est un projet qui consiste à allouer une parcelle de terre à des jeunes porteurs de projets pour qu'ils puissent développer différents projets d'entrepreneuriat agricole. Ensuite, le président de la République a aussi, en mai 2021, établi une lettre de politique pour la souveraineté alimentaire à Madagascar. Et c'est cette feuille de route qui guide les actions du gouvernement en ce qui concerne la lutte contre la malnutrition. Nous avons aussi franchi un cap très significatif, d'abord parce qu'il y a eu la mise en place de l'usine Nutri-Sud qui contribue en quelque sorte à relever la situation. L'usine Nutri-Sud, c'est une usine qui produit des compléments alimentaires. Grâce à la mise en place de cette usine, on a constaté une hausse de 30% du taux de scolarisation des enfants qui se trouvent dans la région en question. Donc il y a eu un certain nombre d'actions très concrètes de la part, d'abord, grâce au leadership de son Excellence, Monsieur le Président de la République, et de son épouse, Madame la Première Dame Mial Radziwiłł, mais il y a aussi derrière tout un travail et une feuille de route qui a été établie. Je ne saurais rester sans préciser que ces différentes actions sont encadrées à travers une politique nationale pour lutter contre la malnutrition, et ceci à travers un certain nombre d'actions qui permettront aussi d'anticiper les différentes phases qui seront encore difficiles. Vous savez, mesdames et messieurs, Madagascar est un pays qui est extrêmement vulnérable aux aléas du changement climatique. Nous avons chaque année plusieurs cyclones qui touchent le pays, des épisodes de sécheresse, des inondations, et donc différents facteurs qui viennent aggraver la situation qui est déjà celle qu'on connaît dans le sud de Madagascar. Nous remercions particulièrement l'engagement du docteur Akinwumi Adesina, qui est venu plusieurs fois à Madagascar auprès des populations vulnérables, qui a constaté par lui-même qu'il y a beaucoup d'espoir par rapport aux enfants à Madagascar, qui peuvent aller très loin dans les études et qu'il faut absolument soutenir. Donc, je ne pourrais pas tout citer comme action ou cadre d'action par rapport au gouvernement et les efforts entrepris par le gouvernement. En tout cas, je peux m'exprimer ici en disant que son Excellence, Monsieur le Président de la République, est extrêmement engagé. Et c'est pour cela, je pense qu'il a le mérite d'avoir été nommé 2 fois champion de la nutrition en Afrique. Merci.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Rasata Ravavita Fika, for that update on what's happening and the interventions that you're providing in Madagascar. My next question will be to the Honorable Minister from Malawi. Minister Wirima, last year, Malawi experienced severe flooding, just like Madagascar, and experienced severe devastation, particularly in the southern parts of the country. But it's made a very fast recovery since then. What are some of the things that you had to do, put in place, to ensure that you were able to overcome some of the devastation since then? And as you look at that, what's the huge impact on hunger that has been highlighted by the severe weather patterns that we're experiencing across the continent?
Thank you very much, moderator. Let me stand on all protocols observed. Malawi, just like most African countries, indeed has not been spared from devastating of all sorts of weather-related disasters. Of late, we had Cyclone Freddy, which did erode most of our gains, especially in education. I'm now speaking as Minister of Education, also just linking this issue of nutrition to education, which is the theme of the African Union this year. So indeed, it has eroded most of the gains that we have made in education, but also in nutrition. You may say, moderator, that we have recovered quick enough. I, for one, do not think that we have recovered quick enough, but thanks to the visionary leadership of our state president, Dr. Lazarus Martha Chakwera, through which we are making progress in recovery. To say the truth, moderator, most of the progress we've made in recovery is to do with a lot of help that we've gotten through our partners, our cooperating partners. We did have a serious call for help because it was indeed devastating. For us to be able to recover from the gains that we had, we need a lot of money, sums of over 600 million US dollars in education alone. So we have infrastructure such as classroom blocks, wash facilities that have been washed off. But just to answer your question once again, I think the progress that we have made, although I do not think it's fast enough, mostly is to do with the call for help that we want. You may also wish to know, as I did highlight yesterday when we had the Executive Council meeting, that amongst the assistance that Malawi did receive, the Council also rendered help to us. But also, let me be quick to say that before this disaster that we had, I'm making now reference more to the Cyclone Freddy, as it was the most devastating. The presidency had already put in mechanisms in place to make sure that the country is food secure. So there's a mega drive now, a big drive of mega farms, knowing that if the country is going to make meaningful progress in food security, we need to scale up on agriculture. So now we've gone back to mega farms. We're doing mega farms in banana, we're doing mega farms in wheat, we're doing mega farms in peanuts, we're doing mega farms in maize, in almost everything. And just also to be quick to say that prior to us attaining the multi-party democracy, I would say the democracy, I think we were doing very well in agriculture. But somehow, somewhere along the way, I think things kind of fell off. But we are fortunate enough as a country that with the visionary leadership of our president, we are going back to basics. We are going back to where we were. And I do believe that I think soon enough, with the help of cooperating partners, but also with the leadership that we have, we are going to make the meaningful progress in food security that we so desire. I submit. Thank you.
Honorable Madalisto Wirima, thank you very much for that update. And you certainly have a visionary and very driven president, at least the little that I've seen on television. I get a sense that that is the case. So I wish you all the very best with what you continue to do. I'm going to come to Madagascar, and just like Malawi, as I said, there have been significant challenges again that are weather-related. But in spite of that, Honorable Namashula, you've also had tremendous success in combating stunting. It is a big problem, it's a challenge, but you haven't been inhibited by those challenges. You're making huge progress. Can you tell us what some of the primary factors are that is driving this government effort and initiative?
Muito obrigada. Moçambique é, por ironia do destino, o caminho de ciclones. Todos os ciclones passam pelo nosso país. Mas temos superado porque temos apoio e solidariedade não só da União Africana, mas também de todos os povos. Devido à nossa posição geográfica, todos os anos nós temos tido ciclones. Tivemos o ciclone Gombe, ciclone Idai, ciclone Fred. Aqui a minha colega de Malawi falou, ciclone Fred primeiro bateu Moçambique, entrou no Malawi, depois voltou de novo para Moçambique. E aprendemos a criar a resiliência. Mas essa resiliência também criamos por causa do apoio de todos os nossos vizinhos da União Africana. Por isso, queríamos manifestar aqui o nosso agradecimento, não só aos nossos países vizinhos da região, mas também de toda a União Africana. Eu mando saudações do nosso presidente, Filipe Jacinto Nyusi, que neste momento não está aqui presente, mas mandatou-nos para virmos transmitir a experiência de Moçambique. Como é que Moçambique supera? Nós criamos em 2017 o Conselho Nacional de Segurança Alimentar e Nutricional, que faz a monitoria periodicamente, 3 vezes por ano, como é que nós estamos em termos de segurança nutricional. Nós temos a época chuvosa que inicia em outubro e tem o seu pico em janeiro. Então, nesse período de dezembro a janeiro até março, há uma equipe que faz a monitoria sobre se temos garantias de alimentos ou não. Depois tem a segunda fase, que é aquela fase onde verificamos se as áreas que foram afetadas pelas cheias conseguiram superar a crise hídrica e que já conseguem produzir os alimentos. E temos também a terceira fase, que é aquela em que monitoramos se efetivamente, na época produtiva, as populações conseguiram produzir ou não. E o Conselho Nacional de Segurança Alimentar e Nutricional faz essas avaliações, publicita, mostra os aspectos críticos, os locais críticos, e aí o governo dá mais atenção àquelas províncias, àqueles locais com mais dificuldades em termos alimentares. O outro aspecto não menos importante é que o Conselho Nacional da Segurança Alimentar e Nutricional tem o seu desdobramento a nível das províncias, a nível dos distritos e também até ao nível das comunidades, para monitorar como é que as nossas comunidades conseguem superar, produzir e garantir os alimentos. E esse engajamento é comum desde o nível central, liderado pelo nosso presidente, e também até o nível local, onde nós temos os administradores distritais. Também temos programas, esses programas também liderados pela nossa mãe, a nossa primeira-dama, que também tem incidência em mulheres, porque no nosso país nós temos uma taxa de mulheres maior que de homens. Então, o empoderamento maior para a produção de alimentos, de garantir que as mulheres estejam saudáveis, também é um desafio. Então, há estes programas de empoderamento das nossas mulheres, para que as mulheres efetivamente possam liderar o processo de garantia da segurança alimentar. E também temos nos nossos postos de saúde programas de educação de mulheres, porque o nosso país é muito produtivo, que ensina as mulheres como combinar os alimentos que têm em casa para garantir que as suas crianças sejam nutridas. A nível das nossas escolas, também temos programas de alimentação escolar, principalmente naquelas zonas onde se nota que temos maior número, principalmente nas zonas rurais, das províncias de Nampula, da província da Zambésia e da província de Cabo Delgado. Então, temos esses programas de alimentação escolar para garantir que os nossos meninos com idade até 5 anos possam ter uma alimentação quente ou papas quentes, bem nutridas, que ajudem a que eles possam ter melhor aprendizagem. Então, esta é a nossa experiência de uma organização estrutural que permite fazermos o acompanhamento devido à vulnerabilidade que o nosso país tem. Muito obrigada.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The 3 M's of Madagascar, Malawi, as well as Mozambique facing similar problems of climate change. You are in the eye of the storm, and it's encouraging to hear the progress that you're making in combating and mediating the devastating impacts that we have from these climate-induced devastation. I'm actually quite grateful. This is the very first time, and I must admit, it's the very first time that I've moderated a panel that has more women than men. And I think that's a very positive development. Yeah. And that's why I deliberately left Dr. Mohammed Ali Patel last, not because I wasn't going to come to you, but I wanted to give the women the opportunity to speak first. Now, Nigeria, yes, please give our honorable ministers a round of applause. Nigeria has not necessarily, it has its own climate challenges that it's dealing with, probably not as much as the other countries that we have mentioned. You are Nigeria, you're the newest member of the Presidential Dialogue Group, and I say congratulations to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and to Nigeria. But my question to you concerns the critical impact that your government intends to have with the initiatives that you're putting in place, particularly over the next 1 year to prioritize nutrition, especially in northern Nigeria. Yes, it's a national issue, but in northern Nigeria, it's a critical issue. What are some of the initiatives that you're putting in place, and how can these be sustained at an institutional and policy level so that it's not all talk, but there's action on the ground? Fortunately, you have a track record of delivery, but I'm glad to hear from you today what it is that the Nigerian government is doing in this regard. Professor Pate, the last, but certainly not the least. Over to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Victor. Excellencies, heads of states, President Adesina, honorable ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I bring warm greetings of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to this august occasion. He had wanted to be here, but he asked me to come and speak about the issue of nutrition and stunting, which is very much close to his heart, and what his administration is trying to do as part of the renewed hope agenda of his administration. Before I share a response in terms of what we're trying to do in Nigeria concretely, I'd like to just set the context a little bit. I think our continent is challenged. It's challenged in the post-pandemic era, whereby many of our governments are facing post-pandemic adjustments in terms of fiscal environment. Poverty has exacerbated, partly because of the pandemic, but we know that there have been exacerbation of poverty. Climate change, reducing productivity in our agricultural systems, undeveloped agricultural value chains, and President Adesina, I would like to call you out for incredible leadership over the last several years on the continent on this agenda. But we still have a long way to go, not only in terms of the agricultural value chains, but also in terms of the food systems, which are largely underdeveloped with lots of wastage, in addition to the practice of how we feed our children and our health systems. So this is a very complex environment within which we are operating. For the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he puts the health, human capital, and the well-being of the Nigerian citizen at the center. Yes, growth is important, but the people matter. And that's why he created the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare and a coordinating role, because it's an inherently multi-stakeholder, multi-sectoral effort that is needed, a whole of government, whole of society approach to address these issues and harnessing the human capital so that as we grow, the prosperity that we envision should be inclusive and that our growth is not stunted, as President Adesina also mentioned. And to do that across government and with other actors, private sector, civil society, in a federal system, which is complicated by itself. So within that context, one of the first things that he did was direct the Vice President to set up a Food and Nutrition Council, which is comprising of course, the Vice President as the chair, but ministers of national planning, myself as the coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Ministry of Education, Water, Agriculture, to coordinate at the federal level alongside our development partners, multilateral financial partners, and other development partners in the United Nations system, and also to engage the subnational actors, because we're a fiscally decentralized system, so that the state governments are also engaged, and there are several actors in the civil society space to be able to really have an overarching multi-sectoral perspective how we address these issues. Of course, there is the acute hunger. Not acceptable on our continent that millions of children are dying of hunger, adults. And then the stunting. Not acceptable that just about 40% of our children on the continent are stunted. So the Africa Vision 2063, I think, will be challenged unless we address this stunting that is very widespread on our continent. But in the context of Nigeria, with our large population, we have to bend the curve. And this council is, in a way, an effort for federal government to lead and to draw those investments from our government. We mandated all ministries to have a nutrition departments, not only health ministries, but also the state governments to also have similar focus, because part of the issue is nutrition doesn't really have a natural home. Is it in agriculture? Is it in education? Is it in health? Is it in water? And so to have a dedicated platform institutionally to anchor this agenda and to have a framework for coordination, I think is one way to address that, to ensure there is financing made available domestically to complement whatever it is our external partners respectfully contribute in terms of trying to address this challenge. It's a long haul, both for acute malnutrition, but also in the context of the stunting issue, which is more medium, longer term. In health, what we're doing is expanding basic primary health care to deliver immunization, because measles, for instance, contributes to stunting. Frequent ailments of children, diarrheal diseases that can be addressed through the primary healthcare system. Saving the lives of mothers, as was said. Breastfeeding when children are born. This is in the remit of health. Maternal anemia. Things that can be done. If you improve maternal anemia, you reduce child mortality. So maternal anemia is a health intervention that addresses the nutritional well-being of the child in gestation, but also in the early childhood. Those are in the realm of health. Now, education is equally important, and water and sanitation important. Agricultural Ministry was renamed, and I think President Adesina started it many years ago when he was minister, but President Hu brought that back as Minister of Agriculture and Food Security. And that includes thinking about the local cuisines that we have, the dietary diversity, to address the acute issues, but also the medium, longer term. In the short term, the President has been very deliberate, releasing grains from our reserves to ensure that we mitigate the difficult circumstances of many of our populations in the rural areas, in the urban areas. This is not limited to Nigeria. This is an African issue. Now, on this issue, if we look back again to the COVID area, where we saw trillions of dollars being used as stimulus in the context of a global crisis. Now we have hunger and stunting in many countries in Africa. The resources in terms of the global community, I think, are there. On climate change and its impact on food systems, we know that, in fact, it has played a major role. So there are resources, and much of this climate change that we're experiencing did not come from Africa. So I think we also need boldness and commitment, similar to what President Adesina has shown as the African Development Bank, to ensure that we invest not only in the acute phase, but also to put in place multi-sectoral interventions, how we can get out of the stunting issue over time. Finally, monitoring and accountability. The President is very keen that each one of us as his ministers has a compact that has measurable targets and periodic appraisal. So every day I scratch my head, how do we deliver all of these efforts? And I know that my colleagues are all trying to deliver, because at the end of the day, that's the key to our job security. Without accountability, without a way of measuring, without the way of harnessing good evidence to guide our interventions, we'll be spinning our wheels for a very long time. So I really think that this dialogue is an important element in the stage on the continent. At the end of the day, it's leaders on the continent that will address this. We thank the partners that are external to the continent, and we know that Africa is a global Africa that we're talking about. But at the same time, leaders on the continent have to internalize the centrality of nutrition, of human capital in the development of the continent. And that's what we're trying to do, and the President is very committed to that, and he wanted me to come and share that alongside many of my colleagues who are here on the panel. Over to you. Thank you.
Minister Ali Pate, thank you very much for giving us a very quick tour de force of what it is that the federal government of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, and yourself and your colleagues are doing. Very well done to you, and thanks to you and your fellow ministers on the platform for the excellent interventions that you're providing, but more importantly, for giving us hope moving forward. So Ministers Mohamed Ali Pate, Camelia Rita Namashula Madalisto Wirima, and Minister Rasata Rafa Rava Vitafika, thank you so much for joining us and providing us with invaluable insights of what it is that's taking place in your respective countries. Ladies and gentlemen, please give our distinguished panel a warm round of applause. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. Before we proceed, I'd like to provide brief recognition here. If you would kindly give a warm welcome and a round of applause to the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, the Right Honourable Baroness Patricia Scotland. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're going to move on just before we take a few statements from our partners, and I know that a number of them are chomping at the bit, ready to go, but we're going to take one final high-level panel, and I'd like to invite to the podium the following distinguished ministers, all of them ministers of health, representing Côte d'Ivoire. Pierre Dimba, the Honorable Minister of Health, please join us on the platform. And second, the Honorable Ivan Butera, the Honorable Minister of Health for Rwanda. And the Honorable Minister of Health representing the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Honorable Roger Kamba. Please give him a warm welcome. Thank you very much. Honorable Ministers, thank you for joining us, and maybe I'll join you in the middle, or don't want to leave an empty space here. Prior to joining us, we've heard from our presidential panel, we've also heard from fellow ministers. The problems we're facing are not exclusive to a particular country, they're universal. So what we'd like to do is gain insights into, one, very quickly, some of the challenges, the immediate challenges that you've had to face, and what it is that you're doing to intervene from a multi-sectoral approach. So I'm going to start first with Minister Kamba to give us some insight.
Merci. Alors la Côte d'Ivoire, comme la plupart des pays qui ont pris la parole avant nous, est confrontée au défi de la malnutrition avec des impacts sur des secteurs économiques et sociaux, notamment donc, au niveau de la mortalité maternelle où la malnutrition est responsable à hauteur de 27%, sur les pertes du PIB pour 2% et sur les retards de croissance et la scolarisation des enfants. Alors pour faire face à ces défis, donc, la Côte d'Ivoire a adopté donc, une approche multisectorielle avec l'élaboration donc, de plans multisectoriels au niveau des 8 secteurs sensibles à la malnutrition. Et ces secteurs, ces plans sont donc annexés et intégrés au plan national de développement. Chaque année, donc, le coût des actions prévues dans ces plans sectoriels sont prévus au PIB et avec des budgets bien ciblés donc, au niveau des secteurs. Il faut reconnaître que la Côte d'Ivoire veut vraiment prendre sa place donc, dans la lutte contre la malnutrition. Et donc, il y a 15% donc, des budgets, des plans globaux qui sont élaborés, qui sont donc prévus dans les ressources domestiques et prévus donc, au budget chaque année. Et des tables rondes sont organisées pour mobiliser le reste des financements. Et nous avons eu la main heureuse avec que ce soit la BAD, la BID et la Banque mondiale pour financer des programmes qui ont été adoptés. La Côte d'Ivoire donc ne veut pas s'arrêter là, veut partager son expérience et aussi bénéficier des expériences des autres pays. Et voilà pourquoi donc il a plu au chef de l'État qui est aussi champion de la nutrition d'organiser donc en Côte d'Ivoire en 2022 le forum de haut niveau donc qui a débouché sur la déclaration du 8 décembre 2022. Mais ce que je voudrais dire, c'est que c'est surtout la coordination des plans multisectoriels qui sont élaborés, qu'il faut dire, qui est fait sous le leadership du chef de l'État. Et l'ancrage, donc tous ces programmes-là sont donc au niveau de la présidence et coordonnés par le chef de l'État et le vice-président, ce qui permet donc de suivre au jour le jour l'évolution donc réalisée. Nous avons également mis en place un centre d'excellence régional, le CERFAM, qui permet donc de renforcer les capacités des acteurs des différents secteurs et partager l'expérience des autres pays dans une coopération sud-sud. Enfin, je pense que depuis 2013, la Côte d'Ivoire a adhéré donc au mouvement mondial Scaling Up Nutrition, qui permet également de travailler avec les autres pays pour renforcer donc son intervention dans ce secteur. Nous avons donc foi, et la Côte d'Ivoire travaille à faire en sorte que le lien entre la nutrition et la croissance des enfants, la réduction de la mortalité, mais surtout la croissance des enfants et surtout leur niveau, au niveau donc, de l'éducation, s'améliore chaque jour. Voilà ce que je voudrais dire et remercier donc les organisateurs d'avoir associé la Côte d'Ivoire à cette table ronde. Merci beaucoup.
Honorable Dimba, thank you very much. Indeed, Côte d'Ivoire is doing some amazing stuff. And if you haven't visited, if you were there probably during the AFCON finals or during the tournament, which I think was an excellent, excellent tournament and a brilliant showcase for Africa. If you weren't able to make it, then certainly visit Côte d'Ivoire, because I think there's much that we can learn from Côte d'Ivoire in the area of food production and nutrition. So we want to say congratulations to all that you're doing. I'm going to come to Honorable Butera. Rwanda, what's your experience been? What is it that you've heard a number of interventions from some of our panelists, the presidential panel, the previous ministerial panel. What is it that you could share with us that actually moves the needle a little bit here that's different from anything that we've heard?
Thank you very much. I think maybe I'll just talk about the journey we've gone through to kind of understand where we are today and where we're heading in the next couple of years. So as you all know, Rwanda, a country that was called a failed state 30 years ago, started rebuilding. You'll understand the priorities were multiple. But from the get-go, under the leadership of our president, President Kagame, it was a human-centered, people-designed development. So did a lot of things over the last 30 years, reduced maternal mortality by 3/4, infant mortality by 2/3, But we are at a crossroads where we see now where you need to address some of the tough things. And I'll talk on the nutrition side, maybe the specificity of it. We are approaching it going through the journey of the mother, the fetus, the newborn, until they're 5. So after having all these gains in maternal mortality, one of the things we realize is that the deaths we are having in maternal mortality are related to very high risk pregnancies. So as a result of that, we adjusted our policies. We used to have 4 antenatal care visits, but right now we've increased them to 8 antenatal care visits. We also look at the trends that are happening in the world, and one that I'd like to highlight here, and that has also been demonstrated to bring a lot of nutrition benefits, is that our pregnant mothers were getting iron and folic acid, but now we've switched to multiple micronutrient supplements, where we are trying to see how we can scale this up on the country. There's a global shortage, it's still expensive. Maybe something in the room we can discuss and see how to do. Multiple micronutrient supplements, we're talking about 15 minerals and vitamins that provides the health and the well-being of the mother. But the studies have shown that you also, by doing that, you reduce your risk of malnutrition and stunting by more than 10% in the offspring. So these are some of the innovations that are coming up. It's new. We are doing it in one district, but with your support, I think we can really scale it up. It has been put on the WHO essential list of medication. So it's something as a continent we can think about how to scale and maybe produce on the continent along other health products that we're talking about. One more thing that I can talk about is we looked at a lot of interventions were done in the past. Nutrition-sensitive intervention extremely important, but we also realized that nutrition-specific interventions were not given a lot of attention. We looked at our data and we see the doubling of our stunting rates really happening at the moment the baby crosses 6 months. You do very well in exclusive breastfeeding, that's fine. But after that, the 7th month, you see it rising 7 to 8, 9 months, it doubles. That's the case in Rwanda. It's an issue of intake. It's an issue of not controlling what's not supposed to leave. If you don't stop it, it gets a problem. So we realized in Rwanda, what can you do? What do we have? What's financially viable? What can we support our families with? It was animal source proteins. So we have this policy of 1 egg per child per day. To cover for the protein deficiencies. A lot of emphasis is on wash, a lot of emphasis on deworming and vitamin supplements. So by that, you're tackling entry points, but also making sure that the kid doesn't lose some of the nutrients that are happening. So these are some of the innovations that are coming on board, and we are starting to see some decline. There's one district in my country that has registered a 10% decline in stunting in 1 year. So we are on to this 2-year accelerated plan with the Ministry of Education, Agriculture, Family, and coordinated at the level of government to kind of see how, you rightly said, how we can push the needle and get rid of stunting, reduce our infant mortality, maternal mortality. We look at it at that system level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ivan Butera. One of the things I like about what you've put forward here, it is the fact that small is big. We've talked about micronutrients. We've talked about providing an egg a day, an animal nutrition or protein, rather, for children. On the face of it, it may look like a small thing, but the end game is this. It makes a huge difference. Don't tell that to a child who's able to access that or to a mother who's able to access these benefits. Congratulations to Rwanda, and thanks for inspiring us. And I'm going to come last but not least, to the Honorable Minister of Health in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Honorable Roger Kamba. Tell us what your government is doing. But again, I want us to move away from what we've heard. Yes, the issues are similar, but what's one of the major takeaways that we can listen to here that DRC is doing differently and with huge impact?
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le modérateur. Effectivement, les problèmes sont similaires et les plans sont quasiment les mêmes. Ils sont pratiquement tous multisectoriels et nous aussi, nous sommes engagés dans le même schéma. En octobre dernier, d'ailleurs, justement, on a fait un grand forum en RDC du 5 au 7 octobre sur la lutte contre la malnutrition. Un forum qui était sous le haut patronage du président de la République. Mais spécifiquement pour notre pays, en plus de tous les problèmes que l'on connaît, nous avions un grand retard, notamment dans la vaccination des enfants. Comme les maladies infectieuses sont vraiment un gros problème qui entre dans la malnutrition, une des stratégies que nous avons eues depuis le départ, c'est d'améliorer les enfants zéro dose, les enfants qui ne reçoivent aucun vaccin et qui donc développent beaucoup de maladies infectieuses et qui ne permettent pas une très bonne alimentation. Donc la stratégie aujourd'hui, c'est d'augmenter vraiment beaucoup la vaccination. Mais la deuxième stratégie que nous avons eue aussi, c'est de ramener les mamans enceintes dans les structures de santé. Et nous avons commencé depuis 5 septembre de l'année dernière le programme de la gratuité de la maternité. Donc, nous avons commencé d'abord à Kinshasa, et ça, c'est une subvention totale de l'État qui nous permet, avec 42 millions de dollars, de couvrir quasiment tous les accouchements au niveau de Kinshasa. Mais la Banque mondiale nous a accompagnés, étant donné que le gouvernement a mis des fonds, en couvrant maintenant à peu près 11 provinces en plus de Kinshasa. Ce qui fait qu'à peu près la moitié du pays commence à profiter du programme de la gratuité des accouchements. L'idée, c'est de ramener le plus possible les mamans, de leur donner l'éducation sur l'allaitement et de prévenir effectivement les différentes carences que nous avons. Et bien entendu, à côté de cela, nous sommes en train de développer effectivement, comme tout le monde, un programme multisectoriel, d'ailleurs appuyé aussi par la Banque mondiale, qui adresse un peu les différents domaines de la malnutrition, notamment l'agriculture. Il est vrai que le problème de l'eau est un problème crucial. L'insalubrité et l'eau, c'est un problème crucial dans notre pays, pour lequel effectivement nous essayons de mettre tous les ministres autour de la table pour que l'approche soit vraiment multisectorielle. Nous avons eu malheureusement, comme tout le monde, des inondations. Vous savez, la RDC est parcourue par un très long fleuve, ce qui fait que les inondations chez nous ont touché à peu près 16 provinces sur 26. Et donc, le long de tout ce fleuve, il y a énormément de personnes qui sont dans des difficultés au niveau de l'alimentation notamment, mais aussi l'accès à l'eau potable. Donc notre approche, c'est bien entendu sortir du secteur de la santé tout seul, parce que pour l'instant chez nous, c'était porté essentiellement par le secteur de la santé, mais quand même en ramenant d'abord les plus petits, les plus fragiles dans le système pour que nous puissions les atteindre plus facilement. Voilà ce que je peux dire rapidement sur notre approche actuellement.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Roger Kamba. In just 27 short years from now, we will move from being a continent of 1.2 billion to 2.4 billion people, which means that all of the interventions that we've heard in all of our panels so far need to be scaled up and need to be accelerated much more than ever before. So we want to thank you in your respective positions as Ministers of Health, working in conjunction with your colleagues in a multi-sectoral way to help combat this critical issue of malnutrition. Not only are you combating it, but you're also providing very valuable solutions, which I believe generations to come will thank you for. So, Honorable Minister Pierre Dimbe, Honorable Minister Ivan Butera, and Honorable Minister Roger Kamba, thank you very much for adding value and insight to this conversation. Thank you very much for joining us. Now we will shortly be bringing this session to a close, but we will not do that without hearing from some of our special development partners who have supported us along the way. Tremendous, tremendous support, and we would be remiss if we did not hear from them. I'd like to invite first to the podium to provide brief, again, emphasis, brief comments. But first, we're going to hear from the present and CEO of Nutrition International, Mr. Joel Spicer. Who, as you will learn in a few moments, is extremely passionate about the issues we've been talking about. Joel, welcome.
Excellencies, distinguished partners, and nutrition champions, because that's what all of you are. And that's what Dr. Adesina is turning all of us into even more. My name is Joel Spicer. I'm the President and Chief Executive Officer of Nutrition International, a global nutrition organization focused on 27 countries in Africa and working also in Asia. It's an honor to be here as a partner both to the AU and the African Development Bank, to Big Win and the ALN, to talk to you about the connections between nutrition and education. As we know, very recently, the AU declared a year of nutrition. And the fact that 2024 is now the year of education is an extraordinary opportunity, because these two themes are deeply connected and mutually reinforcing. You know that expression, a picture is worth 1,000 words? Well, after 10 years of leading a global nutrition organization, this is one of my favorite pictures, because it conveys really well the undeniable connection between nutrition and education. What you're looking at is a brain scan of 2 3-month-old children in Bangladesh. The one on the left is stunted. The one on the right is well-nourished. And you can see the difference in the development of the neuronal infrastructure, the pathways of thought in the brain that Dr. Adesina was talking about when he was telling us about building gray matter infrastructure. This is what it looks like. You know, when a child is born, on average, their brain weighs about 400 grams, roughly as much as this water bottle. By the time they're 2 years old, that has more than doubled to 1 kilogram. And the average weight of an adult brain is about 3 of these, about 1.4 kilograms. So you can see the brain develops at an incredible rate in the first 1,000 days. Now, within this period, the child's auditory and visual sensory systems, their learning abilities, their memory functions, and information processing systems are all formed. But if the child's mother was malnourished while pregnant, if the newborn was born small or early, if the child was not breastfed or didn't have access to basic health and nutrition services, then their brain and immune system will not develop correctly, and they can become stunted both in body and mind for life. So when you think about that, nutrition investments are foundational if you want to improve education outcomes for all. Investments in education are so important, but no matter how many books we buy, or teachers we train, or schools we build, we will never achieve our education goals if that child is cognitively damaged by malnutrition before they even set foot through the front door of a school. Now, as you've heard, there are more than 63 million children under the age of 5 who are stunted today in Africa. And if they do go to school, those children will struggle to learn and be healthy for the rest of their lives. So to me, that's 63 million urgent reasons to bring nutrition and education together to solve the problem. Stunting is not destiny. It is preventable. And just as children need the right nutrition in the first 1,000 days of life, adolescence is the second critical period where nutrition needs are high and education outcomes are at stake. Malnutrition is a leading cause of disability and death among adolescent girls, but it's largely a neglected issue without any champions. Anemia, in particular, is among the biggest threats to girls in Africa, and many countries have rates as high as 40 or even 50% of girls. Anemia impacts their concentration, physical health, learning, and performance, and it leads to missed classes, repeated years, and dropping out of school. But when adolescents get the right nutrition and the right information about nutrition, they're much more likely to stay in school and succeed in their studies. And this, in turn, contributes to delayed marriages, better learning outcomes, the ability to succeed in higher-paying jobs, increased lifetime earnings, healthier children, and the ability to make much greater contributions to their families and to their countries. Now, if the African Union's Year of Education theme, which is Educate an African Fit for the 21st Century, is to be realized in a way that includes everyone, then we must bring nutrition into the heart of the education conversation. Because right now, an entire cohort of children, that's 63 million and counting, will not be able to participate fully in a modern economy. And this poses a major risk to ongoing peace and stability across the continent. Now, as I close, I want to leave you with one thought and one idea. Africa is making commendable investments in education, and more is needed. In a way, we're getting schools and systems ready for children. But are we investing enough in developing children that are ready for schools? Building a school-ready child means increasing our focus on maternal and newborn nutrition and early childhood development. It means ensuring the child has all the health and nutrition investments they need before they go to school. And it means removing the barrier of anemia from adolescent girls so they can stay in school and perform at their best. If we can think, plan, and invest in a way that connects nutrition and education more intentionally, we can supercharge progress towards Agenda 2063 by making sure all young people are able to be a part of, contribute to, and fully benefit from a stronger, more prosperous Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joe Spicer, the President and CEO of Nutrition International. I love what you said there. Malnutrition is not a destiny, it is preventable indeed. Our next development partner who will be providing a short statement is Sheikh Umar Saidi, the Director of Africa Region, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Please give him a warm welcome. Is he not in the room? Okay, he's making his way all the way from the back. Please give him a warm welcome as he makes his way to the platform. Thank you very much. 3 minutes.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, with all due protocol observed, good evening. We are all familiar with the Lancet Nutrition interventions, which are the most evidence-based tool that we have in order to fight malnutrition. We're talking about breastfeeding, micronutrient supplementation, large food fortification. If you combine all of those and scale them at 90%, we reduce malnutrition, I would say stunting specifically, by only 20%. And we all know that 20% is not enough. So we have to make nutrition everyone's business and everyone's responsibility. It is in that spirit that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has been a funding partner to the Africa Leaders for Nutrition. And we've been doing that for the past 7 years. I was reminded that I needed to be brief, so I would just make 2 additional points. First, I'd like to emphasize the critical importance of mainstreaming gender in nutritional policy and also in financing. 50% of the burden of stunting begins, unfortunately, before a child is born. Sadly, That means that mothers are being failed and their children are being sentenced to less fulfilling lives. Second, and this is our advocacy, it is our understanding that the African Union and the African leaders in nutrition are working towards a new continental policy framework and financing target for nutrition. This is a huge development, and we believe that it does have the promise to be a powerful mobilizing tool that will finally help us work toward addressing the 1,000-day window of opportunities that is so critical to ending malnutrition. And we sincerely hope that it will be looked into and adopted. With that, I'd like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sheikh Umar Saidi, for representing well the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation here on the continent. Our next statement will be coming from another development partner, Rania Dagash Kamara, the Assistant Executive Regional Director of the World Food Programme. Very welcome. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Great, you are alive. Excellencies, Madame President in absentia, Excellency Prime Minister, and Madame Commissioner. And I have to close by our optimist-in-chief, Dr. Adesina. It is my honor to address this distinguished gathering on behalf of the Executive Director of the World Food Programme. And I should start by expressing my appreciation for the Prime Minister and every one of the ministers that came up today, because you made my point for me. This is about leadership. And in many ways, you've settled that today. Thank you. We truly do appreciate your unwavering support to combat stunting and malnutrition. There are a few quick areas I wanted to flag. Today we are in a time of shifting sands, that is literally and figuratively. We know that the pace of climate change and its intersection with conflict, the persistence of conflict, has disrupted our food systems, it intensified food insecurity, and it has threatened to destabilize our political landscape. And while we at WFP are at the forefront battling acute hunger, there are many challenges we're dealing with alongside you. The cost of food and fuel markets, the funding shortages that we're seeing, they don't just threaten the lives we're trying to save, but actually all the gains that you spoke to today. So our point there is we've heard a lot of encouragement, which is positive. The words I heard that I liked today were collaboration, partnership, mobilize, leadership, and one that our very able moderator said, this has generational consequence. Thank you, Victor, for making that point. Now, the shifting sands you all know, but the paradox that we have in Africa is special. When it comes to agriculture and food systems, despite 50% of those employed in sub-Saharan Africa being in active agriculture, and despite this continent having 45% of the world's land suitable for sustainable agriculture, most African countries are net importers. So agricultural productivity struggles with the lowest agricultural productivity rates per worker on this continent. So what? There's shifting sands, there's a paradox, and there's potentially 4 things we can collectively do. I think the first is emphasizing our food production is paramount for Africa's self-sufficiency. Some of you have made that point. The second is that we prioritize and accelerate interregional agricultural commerce within the African Continental Free Trade Area. That's essential for optimizing resources and market access. Now, we in the World Food Programme, is my third point, build on innovation, and we are inviting you to rely on our innovation and the accelerator that we set up in Munich. It works for innovative solutions to end hunger and malnutrition. And the reason we are able to do this in WFP is we work with you, with member states, with the private sector. We work with donors, international and regional finance institutions, and our sister UN agencies. Rely on us, please. And finally, a call to renew our dedication to placing nutrition at the epicenter of this development agenda. Together, we envision and realize a future where hunger is an echo of the past and where every African has the means to prosper and our continent stands tall as a beacon of prosperity and opportunity for all. I thank you. I would also like to thank Victor for being a very engaging moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rania Dagash Kamara, again for encapsulating very succinctly the power of partnership that brings us all together this evening. Our next statement from our development partner is going to be Dr. Rebecca Moeti Matshidiso, the Regional Director for Africa, WHO. The platform is yours. Again, brief comments. It's all yours.
Thank you. My name is Rufaro Chatura. I speak here on behalf of Dr. Matshidiso Moeti, the Regional Director for Africa, who very unexpectedly cannot be with us right now. She sends her apologies. Your Excellencies, own ministers, distinguished guests, partners, colleagues, and friends. By June this year, a staggering 49 million people will be hungry in West and Central Africa alone. Malnutrition in this sub-region has remained very high in recent years. The situation troubles us, particularly in the Sahel and Horn of Africa, where WHO has declared the highest emergency level. The situation is compounded by persistent insecurity, displaced populations, low coverage of essential health services, and increasing food insecurity. Beyond this sub-region, other countries, especially those with the worst income inequities, face undernutrition that coexists with overweight and obesity. Across our continent, infants, small children, and pregnant and breastfeeding women are hit the hardest. We have made considerable efforts on nutrition as governments and partners, but all that is seriously at risk due to poverty, conflict, economic shocks, climate change, limited access to basic services, and poor care and hygiene practices. As WHO, we are on the ground with our partners, providing basic health services, treating severe malnourishment, and helping countries prevent and respond to disease outbreaks. In September 2024, the WHO African region will undertake a joint review with the African Union Commission and other partners of our member states' situation on the 2025 World Health Assembly nutrition targets. In contribution to the African Union's Year of Education, we will co-organize a regional consultation to inform strengthening school health and nutrition programs. Excellencies, dear friends, I'm pleased that this gathering is calling for multi-sectoral investments. In these challenging times, we have a collective responsibility to build resilience and mitigate the impact of current and future crises, strengthening nutritional surveillance, and advocate for additional financing to address malnutrition. The agricultural sector and food producers need to adopt good practices, and action must be taken to ensure that food prices are affordable. As governments, development partners, the private sector, producers, transporters, food sellers, and families, we must all play our roles. As WHO, we are ready to work with all stakeholders here to accelerate the progress on nutrition and food systems in Africa. Thank you for your attention.
Mr. Rufaru Shantura, thank you very much for representing the Assistant Executive Regional Director, or rather, the Regional Director for Africa, WHO. Thank you very much, and I do apologize, but time is against us, and we do require that our last statement also be brief and straight to the point, given the limitations of time. With that being said, I'd like to invite Dr. Felicite Shibindat, the UNICEF Regional Director for West and Central Africa, to provide our final, very brief statement at this high-level summit. Thank you very much. No, I'm not against women, actually pro-women. You're very welcome. Well, thank you very much. No pressure.
His Excellencies, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about transformative partnership and multi-sectoral investment to address malnutrition. Malnutrition is associated with nearly 45% of death of children under 5 globally and is linked with poor cognitive development, diminished school performance, lower productivity, and higher risk of chronic disease in adulthood. This translates into significant economic losses. Addressing malnutrition requires a concerted effort from government, civil society, and the private sector. While stunted has declined in Africa, today 1 in 3 children are affected. Stunting is the most unfair burden to African communities. It perpetuates poverty and inequality, limits life opportunities, and has a long-lasting effect on individuals and societies. Children's nutrition depends on what communities can find and afford on local markets. Unfortunately, the food supply is not enough nor affordable. Africa is the only continent where all food groups, apart from staple foods, are insufficiently available to meet the daily dietary requirements. Also, Africa has 65% of the world's remaining uncultivated arable land. To sustainably reduce stunting, we must work on all components of the food system, starting with the normative framework, stimulating the demand, investing in the production, transformation, and retail of local affordable, nutritious, and diversified food for children. With 6 years left to reach the SDG, we must recommit to delivering diets, services, and practices that guarantee the right to nutrition for every child and adolescent by, first, mobilize the food, health, and social protection system to deliver nutritious and affordable foods, essential nutrition services and practices. Second, shape and strengthen food system, including through innovative financing to support local production and the local economy. We are losing precious foreign exchange by continuing to pay for food to be imported. So we must quickly eliminate the negative balance and start to sow, grow, process, consume locally produced food. This is how we will create a healthier future for Africa. UNICEF is fully engaged in answering the call for action made by Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dr. Felicity Shimbidat. UNICEF actually has been in the forefront, thank you very much, of the fight against malnutrition, and I am a witness to that. During the Nigerian Civil War, I am indebted, and so too many in my generation, for the difference that UNICEF made in our lives. I'd like to call at this point on someone who I've given an impossible task to provide the key outcomes of this high-level summit in warp speed, hyperspeed, and I'm glad to announce that he has given me his full assurance that he will do it in less than a time allotted. I'd like all of us to welcome Professor Giulio Raccotonirina, the Director for Health and Humanitarian Affairs at the African Union Commission. Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you so much. So allow me to speak French, please. Nous étions là pendant 150 minutes et on m'a demandé de vous résumer en 5 minutes. Ce sont les étudiants qui font généralement les résumés, mais ce n'est pas les profs. Mais maintenant, je le ferai avec plaisir. D'abord, lorsque on a discuté, j'ai pu me rendre compte que la malnutrition a plusieurs causes. Causes médicales et causes non médicales. Causes multiples. Ça, c'est le premier point. Deuxième point, lorsqu'il s'agit de causes multiples ou de causes complexes, je vais prendre un exemple. Lorsque le niveau de connaissance ou le niveau d'éducation est bas, il y a un risque de malnutrition. Ce qui signifie, en deuxième point, il faut une approche multisectorielle. Ce n'est pas seulement d'approche médicale. Il nous faut donc une approche multisectorielle. Lorsqu'il existe plusieurs secteurs, ça c'est le prochain point, il faut qu'il y ait une meilleure collaboration entre les secteurs. Que ce soit des secteurs médicaux ou secteurs non médicaux, que ce soit des secteurs publics ou des secteurs privés. Je n'ai pas inventé, mais sur la base de l'écoute que j'ai effectuée, par rapport aux une vingtaine d'interventions de d'aujourd'hui. Alors, lorsqu'on a besoin d'approches multisectorielles, ce qui signifie qu'il faut de l'investissement multisectoriel bien renforcé pour pouvoir lutter contre la malnutrition. Alors, si telles sont donc les théories, je me suis rendu compte qu'il y en avait, ce n'est pas de séparer, mais juste pour comprendre, il y avait les États membres qui se sont engagés, qui ont partagé leurs expériences dans la lutte contre la malnutrition. Nous avons entendu également les partenaires. Alors, maintenant, nous devrons concrétiser davantage cette approche multisectorielle pour pouvoir lutter efficacement contre la malnutrition. Merci infiniment.
Many thanks, Professor Julio Rakotoni Arena, for providing great passion there and laying out for us the key outcomes of this high-level roundtable here in Addis. Now, before we close out our evening and before we come to the closing comments, I would like to invite once again the President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, to provide brief remarks of appreciation. Please welcome Dr. Akinwumi Adesina.
You know, it's amazing. It's after 9, and you're still here. That is dedication. That is commitment. It means this issue is so important to you. Please give it up to yourselves. I give it up to you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I just want to say a few words of thanks and appreciation. Let me start. Isn't Victor Oladokun just an incredible moderator? You can do better than that for him. I heard him saying something about me, and I walked out because I didn't want to know what he said. But I hope he said something good. Well, I'll find out later. Thank you, Victor, for an exceptional work. Thank you so much. I'd like to just summarize some of my take-home lessons from here, because the event is the actions that follow that matters, to build on where we are to where we need to go. It was clear to me that political will and leadership is critical, that multi-sectoral approach necessary and critical. We learned about the example in Syria alone, where the vice president talked about a dedicated budget line for stunting, which is amazing. We learned about the fact that we need to study what's working and then scale those things up, like the case of Sagota here in Ethiopia, where they reached 20 million kids and where they drastically reduced the level of stunting. So we got things working at scale that we can learn from. Multi-sectoral approaches, critical. Again, one of the things that I learned here was partners dashboard, how we work, and we can put things together into partners dashboard. Who is doing what? Where are they doing it? How can we connect with each other so that the multiplicative effect of our actions on this critical issue of malnutrition and stunting, we were a lot higher than each of our individual efforts. Lots to learn from that. It was clear listening to all of you, the ministers, the heads of state, the vice president, and the experts, that at the end of the day, it's execution that matters. It's implementation, the ability to implement at scale. My folks at the bank know I always say I have no interest in Mickey Mouse projects. If you have 86 million kids that you want to teach, you need big things that are transformational, that can do results at scale. And so let's raise our ambition and do things that are transformative at scale. I learned that climate change, we should pay attention to it. Because, when Victor was moderating the panel with Mozambique, Malawi, and I think it was Madagascar, how they were devastated by hurricanes and cyclones, and those things actually pull us back. And so I think as we look at malnutrition and stunting generally, we need to also overlay on that some kind of a risk insurance program that will make sure that people don't fall back. And in the case of Malawi, Mozambique, and Madagascar, we have something, my vice president here, Dr. Beth, which is called Africa Disaster Risk Insurance Facility, which actually insured those countries and provided them with direct payouts to be able to make the impact of the negative shocks that they were going through. But we do need to take climate change very seriously. We learned that, in fact, again from from Sierra Leone, that when the vice president was talking about the census, the malnutrition census, the survey, was talking about data. And I think we need to do a better job of that data so we know the scale of what we are dealing with, where we are dealing with it, where do we start, and what are the results that we are actually expecting. So I think we should spend a lot more time in getting data. A lesson that I also think can help us is this issue of the Presidential Council on Nutrition, which we learned from Minister Pate of Nigeria. That can raise it to the level of heads of state to take all these multi-sectoral issues very, very seriously. We also had that from Madam President of Ethiopia. Maternal health care matters. We need to do a lot more on monitoring and accountability. We learned a lot about the importance of micronutrient supplements from the minister from Rwanda, and the importance of biofortification, but also of fortification itself. And the minister was talking to President Kagame, and one of the things we didn't hear throughout this discussion today was about school feeding programs. And that's very important. But I think we should combine school feeding programs with community-based food fortification programs. We can reach things at scale. I also want to say that we learned again, I was very touched by what Joel was showing about the gray matter infrastructure, just the neurons that you were showing there. And I'd like to have that slide if you don't have an IP on it or whatever. I would like to be able to use it. It carries home the message. As he said, we should not be building a school ready for a child. We should be preparing schools for our children. We should not be building school ready for children. We should be preparing children for schools where they can learn. I think that's a very powerful statement. And that we must connect nutrition to education and the importance of partnerships. I can't emphasize that enough. So let me close by offering my real appreciation to the African Union Commission. Honorable Commissioner, thank you very much for all the great work that you do. Thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for working with all of us. I think you should feel really supported here because we think that what you're doing is very, very important. Let me thank the Big Green Philanthropy, Jamie Cooper and her team. Please give it up to them. They're selfless, just passionate in putting all this together in many, many ways. Thank you, Jimmy. You will not hear Jimmy talk, but you will only feel the impact of what Jimmy does. Let me also thank the team from the African Development Bank, Vice President and all the staff that worked to make this happen. Thank you very much, everybody. Let me thank the interpreters. That way we could understand each other. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. And all the technical teams. And the good, did you like the food? Nutritious food. It was really nutritious food. And thank you for all those who actually gave us this nutritious food. And finally, to the Majesty the King. I was talking to the Prime Minister, and I said, please kindly tell His Majesty the King that what he championed has become a revolution. And he's very, very dedicated to this, very passionate about it. So please, on our behalf, please thank His Majesty the King for his passion, his commitment, and his dedication and drive on this. I think I like how some people, when you were speaking, some people are doing, ooh. Are they still here? Yeah, do it for the King, yeah. All those, ooh. And finally, you, the partners, you, the nutrition champions for Africa, you are the people that are doing the work every single day, and you will do it from tomorrow. I'm very, very grateful and very, very appreciative for every single one of you being here at 9:30, and you're still here, still committed to nutrition. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Asante sana, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, for those wrap-up comments and remarks of appreciation. I'd now like to call on the Right Honorable Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Lesotho, Samuel Matekane, to provide closing comments on behalf of His Majesty, King Letse III, the host of this high-level roundtable on nutrition, food security, and the imperatives of multi-sectoral investments on the margins of the ongoing African Union Summit here in the beautiful city of Addis Ababa. Once again, my name is Victor Ladokun, and it's been a pleasure being your moderator today. Over to you, Prime Minister.
Thank you so much, Thank you so much.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. Excellencies, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, participating in this high-level roundtable on addressing malnutrition and catalyzing Africa's transformation through enhanced multi-sectoral investment has been indeed a great honor. I must sincerely thank you, Excellencies, and partners who have contributed to the success of this event. Thank you. Your dedication and support demonstrate our collective resolve to tackle malnutrition and secure the future of African children. Your presence and participation have made a big difference, and I am grateful for the opportunity to work alongside such esteemed stakeholders. Excellencies, throughout our discussion today, we have witnessed the commitment of the African Union heads of state and government to present policy and program solutions for scaling up nutrition through multi-sectoral programming and investment. The enhancement of multi-sectoral collaboration is testament to our collective resolve to address the intricate challenges of malnutrition and its profound impact on Africa's development trajectory. Excellencies, As we conclude today's deliberations, we stand at the threshold of heightened awareness regarding the ongoing endeavors to combat malnutrition. Concurrently, we anticipate a surge in collective action among member states. The inclusion of Nigeria and Rwanda into the Presidential Dialogue Group and African Leaders for Nutrition signifies momentous achievement in our joint pursuit of a healthier and more prosperous Africa. This requires us to lead the way by ensuring that the battle against malnutrition receives the attention, financial resources, and cross-sectoral integration policies it demands. It is time to strengthen our close collaboration with government bodies, non-profit making organizations, and the private sector to formulate comprehensive strategies and action plans that are sensitive to our context. In conclusion, let us reaffirm our steadfast dedication to concerted effort aimed at eradicating childhood malnutrition in all its manifestations together. Let us advance with resolute determination and unity, cognizant that our present endeavors will lay the groundwork for a brighter and better nourished future for our commitment. I agree with I will definitely convey the message from all of you to His Majesty. I will let him know that on Monday when I get back home, as soon as I get home, that will be the first thing that I will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. That brings us to the close of this high-level roundtable. Thank you very much once again for being here. As the Honorable Prime Minister and our development partners exit the room for a family photograph on the outside, could we just stand and again give everyone and yourselves a warm round of applause. A family photograph will take place just outside the door between the Honorable Prime Minister as well as our development partners and Baroness Scotland also. Thank you very much.